Because when I cut his hair, he wasn't a star. He was just a bloke that played at the Tons, and he was playing folk music at that time. I hadn't known him any more than a folk musician.
And the first time you actually saw David and Angie was when they were walking down Beckenham High Street, and David was wearing a dress. You know, what did they look like when you first set eyes on them?
It was funny. It was funny. Everybody ran out to have a look. You know, I'm running out to have a look, and I can see the people from the opticians are running out to have a look. He was with this girl, Angie, and she was the complete opposite to him. So she had this very short hair, skinny black pants, and a big furry jacket. And he was in a dress and a floppy hat, pushing a pushchair.
What was your favourite thing about meeting David Bowie? What was the best thing about him?
Yes, we have.
Leaving suburbia and going on the road.
Yeah. Did it seem a very kind of glamorous, unreal life?
Well, it did, but you know, I thought I was such an innocent. I think we all were. No one had ever done it before. We thought rock stars travelled like that. I'd never stayed in those seedy hotels where you drag your ass in and out. I'd never done that. I started in the Plaza, and the Plaza was gorgeous. I guess you can compare it to the Dorchester, really. It was a bit like that. And we took over a floor. So we had David's bodyguards on the elevators. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And then one at his door. He had a suite. One suite at one end was David's. The suite at the other end was the hospitality suite. And we had all the rooms in between. It was extraordinary. It really was. That was the best thing about David. I mean, as much as I loved him and his music, the opportunity he gave me to not live a normal life, that was the best thing for me. And also meeting my husband.
Book that, you know, you're so grateful to this day to David because he took a chance on you and he changed your life. Do you ever in your quieter moments wonder what would have happened to Suzi Fossey as you were then? If your paths had not crossed, you know, would you be still working?
Something would have happened.
Yeah?
I was looking for it.
Yeah?
Something would have happened. I went to Italy when I was 17. I came to the States when I was 20. I was looking for something. It just happened to be David. As I say, David would have been a different David without Mick. Well, I'd have been a different Suzi Ronson, but I wasn't going to be my parents.
Yes.
But I'm sure.
Watched everyone.
Definitely.
I loved it. Did you like
And what do you think your legacy is as a costume designer? I know me as a young person, I grew up wearing David Bowie wigs and Ziggy Stardust.
I think the haircut's got to be the thing. I mean, who knew we'd be talking about this haircut some 50 years later? Who knows? But I think that must have been my legacy, is that haircut.
Yeah.
Forerunner of all punk mullet haircuts.
Back in that whole incredible period, if I really put you on the spot, is there a particular record? Is there a particular show? Is there a particular look that, you know, you're most affectionate towards more than any other?
No, not really. I mean, the Rainbow shows, because that was the first time I was employed by them, and it was something so different.
Yeah.
The dancers, and I was like, how am I going to do everybody's hair? It was like 20 people, and I thought I had to do everybody's hair. Of course I didn't. And then those shows, Carnegie Radio City Music Hall. What a fabulous show. But they were all great shows. The Tower Theatre, 2 shows a night for 7 days. It was exhausting, but it was really exciting. The whole thing was just so exciting.
And when the records come on the radio today, or, you know, you see clips on TV, do all the memories and all the good times come flooding back?
You know, I avoided them for so long because of the Mick thing. And it's just since I've written the book, I went to this great gig called the Cat Club. Do you know the Cat Club in Pigeon Loft above the Robin Hood? Have you?
Yeah.
It's a great gig, but I had to listen to Diamond Dogs, and I hadn't listened to that for years. So it's 30 years since Mick died, so it's a little easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's silly, isn't it? I know, but I can't help it. And it wasn't until right after that we did Save the Whale concert, and Lou Reed was there.
Yeah.
And I was asked to go up and look after Lou Reed. I think they were 2 sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah, fantastic.
David was very influenced by Lou and Iggy, I think. And Lou was an amazing songwriter, even though he was a little untogether when we knew him.
My brother, who I was really...
I knew Lou for many years. So he was so shy in a way. As I said in the story, I thought he was a big star in the States, but he wasn't. And when I met him, he was wearing this black velvet suit that Angie had bought for him, with glitter on the collar and the cuffs. And he looked really scared, and he said to me, "How many people out there?" I said, "Well, 2,000, I think we sold out." And if I told David and the band they'd sold out, they were in raptures, right? But Lou looked even more terrified. He looked terrified. Wow. So I took him to the side of the stage, and Mick started that throbbing riff, waiting for the man. Lou got up on stage, and the crowd went ballistic.
Oh no, there was a
It was incredible. And of course he stood up and did a great show. But I think he was as surprised as everybody else was.
When you packed your suitcases and hit the road with David and the Spiders from Mars, what was the kind of job description? Because it was more than just cutting his hair. You looked after the costumes. When he rushed off stage at the end of one song and got out of one costume, you to put in it. What was a sort of typical, working day for you in those days?
Well, I would travel with the crew. I'd travel with the band and the crew, and we'd load in, sort out the costumes, sort out the dressing rooms. The band would come in, and just basically make sure they had everything they needed. It's a funny thing when you look like that. You can't actually do much for yourself. You can't go shopping in the high street. I remember one time we're travelling and we stopped in one of those motorway cafes. And Mick says to Trev, "Come on, Trev, we're going into the restaurant," They get up. Well, they look such a sight, right? Then Mick with his blonde hair and his boots up to here with tight jeans, and Trevor with his whiskers and his hair. And David's laughing at them, He said, "Suzi will go in for you." "No, it's all right, we'll go in." So they go in there. Well, they weren't in there 5 minutes. And they almost ran back to the truck. People were yelling at them, because they looked so strange. And I think they used me. I did all the shopping for them. Anything they wanted, I would go and get for them. Apart from doing that, I just made myself useful.
Yeah.
I just filled all those gaps because I wanted to be on the road and be with them all the time. I loved it.
And at one point in this tour, you accidentally overheard a conversation between David and Tony DeFries, in which David said that he was going to break up the band.
It was in Japan.
Right. And then, of course, we come to this incredible, now historic date on the 3rd of July, 1973, when Ziggy and the Spiders were playing a sellout show at Hammersmith Odeon, and David walked up to the microphone and said, "Not only is this the last show of the tour, but this is the last show that we'll ever do." You said you kind of, when you heard the news in advance, you had a kind of pit in your stomach,
the whole time. I kind of kept hoping he would change his mind, because it was doing so well. I couldn't imagine, why would he want to break up a band that was doing so well? It's not until retrospect, you look back at it, and you realise just a huge weight he was carrying, and how difficult it was for him, I think. I think he didn't want to get trapped in that Ziggy personality. I think he wanted to explore other avenues. And sometimes, some people, they get caught in a time period and they can never seem to get forward or break out from that. I don't think David wanted that, but of course I didn't realise that until years later. Mick knew, I knew Mick knew, but Trevor and Woody didn't know, and I felt really bad for them. Because even afterwards, when I went backstage and I said, "Oh, what do you think?" And they're like, "Well, we're going on tour in September into America. He's not breaking up the band." And they didn't believe him, and I felt awful. I felt really bad for them.
You described the end of Ziggy, being killed off as being swift and brutal. Was it that stark? Was it that?
Yes. David never saw them again. David ran off stage, got in a car. That was it.
And what's your favourite thing about being at the Borders Boot Fest?
Oh, the country.
Yeah.
Isn't it just gorgeous? When we drove from Berwick-on-Tweed through here, I thought we drove for hours, didn't we? It was like, it was so long, number one, and it was gorgeous. And of course, my fellow authors and being here and the great audience.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
100%.
Had a really good time.
Yeah. And one last question.
Yeah, quite right, Richard.
Is there what's your favourite book at the moment? Are you an avid-
Am I told?
Oh no.
Am I told? He's got a new book out which I don't like so well, but he's the trilogy.
I'm going
Which is the man from Moscow, and two others.
yeah, I'm staying
I
in
can't remember the titles, but he's a very good author.
Brilliant. Have you ever met him at all? Or?
No, I haven't. And I think I just started reading Earl Slick's book, and I'm only halfway through. But that sounds like it's a really good book too.
And
Depends if you mean fiction or non-fiction.
yeah, 100%. Is there
he knew that I was on it.
is there anything specific about non-fiction you prefer over fiction, or?
No, you know, I really like reading classics. I'm listening to George Eliot at the moment. Midsummer March or whatever it is. That's a great. I like the classic books. I like Dickens. I like Jane. I mean, I still like those classic books. John Steinbeck.
Oh yeah.
Wow, you read
Mice and
any of his
Men.
books?
Yeah.
Not even Mice and Men. The one
Grapes of Wrath.
Grapes of Wrath.
Wow. Yeah. John
It's
Ford
so
did a great
powerful,
one.
and I never realised America had that happen to it. And even though it's fiction, it's such a powerful book.
It's
Really, I understood America a lot better after that book.
100%. And when did you pick up that book? Was that?
I read that last year. No, 2 years ago now. It was something I was living with my brother in Surbiton. I needed something to get. I used to get up in the morning and do exercises and whatever, and I'd listen to that book. It's an amazing book, really incredible book.
That's brilliant.
I think I want to be a better writer.
Yeah.
I've written one book, I'd like to write more. So I need to be a better writer. I think sometimes it's better to study the classics, to get the language.
And do you think fiction would appeal to you as well?
I'd love to be able to write fiction. I'm not sure I'm capable of it, but I'd love to be able to write fiction.
Oh, I think you do great. at that.
Do you think I might be?
You've got a
Give it a
great
go.
storytelling. You've got a great capacity for storytelling, as you showed in 10. You know, when you were talking about all your stories, and I feel like that's necessary not just for non-fiction but for fiction too. So I think
I'd love to be able to write fiction. I'd like to give it a go. I'll try and give it a go.
no, definitely. You'll have to send me a copy, definitely.
I will.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
interviewing me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it was
Thank
great
you.
meeting you.
Great to meet you too.
And of course then we come to 2016, the 8th of January, and David releases Black Star, which was his 26th and final album. It was released on his 69th birthday, and then sadly within 48 hours he lost his battle with cancer. Now he'd made the record.
Same disease as Mika.
Yeah, he'd made the record and kept his secret, you know, of his illness from all but his
Oh, but I knew.
closest friends, right, and some
Mick
people
Rock knew.
in the circle. There was this global outpouring of grief all around the world. How did you hear the news, Suzi, and what did you feel when the bulletins came through on TV?
I was living actually. I was working with someone down in Tribeca, about a mile from where David was living, and someone called me at like 4 a.m. I think it was Tom Wilcox, my daughter's manager at the time. He was so sorry for your loss. What are you talking about? David Bowie died. Well, it kind of hit me so hard because I always had hoped that I'd see him again. You had to go over old times, you know, the coming up is always the most exciting part. I'd always hoped I'd see him again, and now he was gone. Of the same disease Mick died from, and I was, he died like a mile from where I was standing.
Mm-hmm.
It made me feel really sad about that, yeah.